know Governor Huckabee. I have a cordial relationship with him. He served as the governor of Arkansas. But I find this kind of inflammatory rhetoric totally unacceptable.
Hillary Clinton condemning the comments made by Republican presidential candidate Mike Huckabee during a stop today in Iowa. Let's hear what the experts think. John Gizzi is the chief Washington correspondent for Newsmax, and Alexis Levinson is the senior political reporter for the National Review. Alexis, were Huckabee's comments offensive, as Hillary Clinton is suggesting, or right on target?
I thought they were a little potentially passing that line between making a reasonable criticism of the Iran deal and into the place where you just kind of seem like you're throwing bombs for the sake of throwing bombs and getting attention.
You know, John, President Obama said the comments would be considered ridiculous if it weren't so said. What did you think of the comments and the response from the president?
I thought that the comments were, while words I wouldn't have chosen, very appropriate when you consider what comes out of Iran every day. General Anthony Zinni, retired American military officer and a major figure in the Middle East, talked about hatred being spewed against Israel and particularly the Jewish people every day on loudspeakers in Tehran as well as on Radio Tehran. In addition, if anyone has a problem with Governor Huckabee talking about another Holocaust, one should look back to Iran being a host city for Holocaust deniers over the years. I well recall in December of 2006, when Americans who take that position, such as David Duke, joined 70 others worldwide as the guest of then-President Ahmadinejad to say there were no ovens and there was no Holocaust. Is Governor Huckabee's language any more shocking than that?
Well, Alexis, let's get back to some of your thoughts concerning, do you think ultimately what Mike Huckabee was trying to say was accurate, just that he didn't use the right words?
You know, I mean, he obviously doesn't like the Iran deal. None of the Republicans in this field like the Iran deal. I think that's, you know, obviously a pretty common position among pretty much every Republican that's looking at this. But having said that, I don't know. I think we reach a point where some of these candidates start to, you know, it's the Donald Trumping of this race, that it's, okay, let me see what I can say that is the most inflammatory thing that will get me tons of attention and I will get tons of news time. And I kind of think Huckabee's remarks, whether or not the sentiment was accurate, and, you know, obviously Israel is very against this deal, I just thought it was just a gratuitously flamethrower-esque remark as opposed to a genuine criticism of this deal.
Well, John, what do you think? Is Donald Trump raising the rhetoric? Are candidates talking to each other in maybe harsher terms?
No, I don't think so. And I think what you find is that when you remove Trump himself from the equation, you will have some very serious discussions from the candidates on particular issues. Governor Kasich, for example, has laid out precisely what he would do in the Middle East and what position he would have on a new agreement with Iran, as well as how he would take on the Ukraine. He never mentions opposition candidates. He never engages in any kind of rhetoric. I might add one thing. If Hillary Clinton is going to take another shot at another Republican candidate, I've got a feeling she might just explain her own situation involving the use of a personal server with classified materials. The latest charges about that come not from the vast right-wing conspiracy, but from the independent Inspector General of the Office of Director of Intelligence. Let's have some explanation and dialogue on that subject.
John, you surprised 9 days after Trump made those controversial comments about John McCain. He still seems to be at the top of every Republican poll that we've looked at?
No, it doesn't surprise me. Remember, it's the summer, and people generally are not focused on politics. I have to say that when somebody is a little bit off the beaten track, beyond the pale, if you will, and says things, it will draw attention at this time from a public that's largely politically apathetic over the long, hot summer. I will say that in the fall, when people are a little more focused, it will get some more attention. And again, I would also say in the polls that the comments about immigration themselves certainly didn't hurt Mr. Trump. The comments about McCain showed a drop in his support I submit to you that people are usually looking elsewhere, and I see this phenomenon in the politics of France and the United Kingdom as well.
And Alexis, just an overall impression, do you think Trump is breathing some fresh air into the Republican Party?
I think most Republicans might disagree with that. I think it's maybe less fresh air and more hot air. I don't know. I think he's distracting. I think what's going to be really interesting to see next week is he's on the debate stage in Cleveland. He won't be participating in the Republican Forum in New Hampshire earlier that week. And I'm curious to see how those two different debates go. It's the same cast of characters, except Trump is in one and not in the other. And
And
we'll
just
see.
switching gears here real quickly, John, it looked like the president obviously very popular in his father's home country in Kenya. He did make some comments, though, about advocating homosexual rights. And the Kenyan president, in what was maybe a tense moment, said, you know, day-to-day Kenyans aren't really worried about that. Homosexual rights really universally not that popular across the continent. What were some of your impressions?
Well, some of my impressions are that one has to look at the history of those two heads of state. And there's a lot of historic tension there. Barack Obama Sr., whom the president referred to in his toast and President Kenyatta referred to in his toast on Saturday, was someone who worked in the government of the Kenyan president's father, Jomo Kenyatta, Kenya's first president, the George Washington of Kenya. They later had a major falling out, and the elder Obama was very critical of the elder Kenyatta.
I'm going to have to jump in, leave it right there. Thank you very much to John Gizzi and Alexis Levinson. Really appreciate the comments.